Welcome to Book to Blueprint, where powerful books become practical blueprints for real life. You do not need more information, you need execution. This is Book to Blueprint. So, you think you're in control of your life? That you've got it all planned out? Well, what if I told you that you have way less control than you think? We're about to dive into Brian Klaas's book, Fluke, which completely flips our understanding of cause and effect on its head. And it all starts with a very simple question. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? You know the butterfly effect where one tiny change rewrites the future? But this isn't fiction. This is a real story about how one person's vacation did exactly that. So let's get into it. This isn't just some thought experiment. It's the absolutely incredible true story that Brian Klaas uses to kick off his whole argument. It's about how a simple, fond memory from a vacation ended up saving an entire city from being completely annihilated. At the center of all this is a guy named Henry L. Stimson, and a trip he took that honestly he probably didn't think about for years. But as the book Fluke shows us, the world doesn't work on neat, predictable schedules. Sometimes the moments we forget are the ones that end up shaking the entire world. Okay, so picture this. The year is 1926. An American politician, Henry L. Stimson, is on a trip to Kyoto with his wife. They're just being tourists, taking in the beautiful temples and gardens. It was just a nice vacation, a tiny, insignificant little ripple in time. Or so it seemed. Now, let's fast forward almost 20 years. It's 1945. The world is at war, and that same Henry Stimson, he's now the US Secretary of War. A top secret committee has just picked Kyoto as the #1 target for the atomic bomb. But Stimson remembers that trip. He remembers the beauty of the city. And he goes directly to President Truman again and again and just refuses to back down until Kyoto is taken off the target list. And trust me, this was a huge fight. The military leaders were furious. For them, strategically, Kyoto was the perfect target. They had factories, a university. It ticked every single box. They couldn't figure out why Stimson was so obsessed with saving this one city. They had no idea it was all because of a pleasant stay he once had at the Miyako Hotel. This quote from the book just perfectly sums up how wild this all is. The lives of hundreds of thousands of people hung in the balance because of a nice memory. And the chaos didn't even stop there. The second choice target, a city named Kukura, was spared because it was a cloudy day. Literally, clouds got in the way, so they flew to Nagasaki instead. Our world is shaped by these tiny random moments. So the Kyoto story it's mind-boggling. And it makes you wonder, right? If the world is this random, are there any rules at all? Well, Klaas says yes, there are. We just have to learn the rules of chaos. To get our heads around this, Klaas gives us two different ways to see the world. First, there's convergence. That's the idea that some things are just meant to be, kind of like a river that's going to reach the ocean no matter how many twists it takes. But Klaas argues we actually live in a world of contingency. Think of it more like a tree with a million branches, where one tiny gust of wind or one vacation can send things down a completely different path forever. So what's the engine driving all this randomness? It's a concept called interconnectedness. It's this simple but huge idea that everything is connected to everything else. In this kind of world, a tiny ripple can turn into a tidal wave. Something that seems like random noise, like a tourist's pleasant memory, can suddenly become the crucial signal that changes history. I love this quote from John Muir. It just nails it. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Stimson's forgotten vacation in 1926 was directly hitched to the fate of an entire city in 1945. And your life, right now, is hitched to a million things you'll never even know about. So this raises a really big question. If the world is this giant, chaotic, interconnected web, why don't we see it that way? Why are we always trying to tell simple, straight-line stories about why things happen? Well, it turns out it's because that's what our brains are built to do. Klaas has this perfect analogy for it. Imagine a truth creature, something that could see every single particle and wave in the universe all at once. It would be totally paralyzed, right? Completely overwhelmed. That's why we evolved to be shortcut creatures. Our brains don't show us reality as it really is. They show us a simplified version that's useful for getting by. And it makes total sense from a survival perspective. Our ancestors on the savannah didn't need to ponder cosmic chaos. They needed to make split-second decisions based on simple patterns. Rustling in the grass might be a lion, so I should run. Our brains got really, really good at finding a simple cause for a big effect and ignoring all the other noise. But here's the catch in the modern world. That ancient wiring makes us crave simple answers for everything. It's why we're so drawn to experts and pundits who act like they have it all figured out. We'd rather have a comfortable, simple explanation that's wrong than face up to a messy, complicated truth that's right. So this all leads to the biggest question, the so what question. If we live in this world of flukes and our brains are designed to miss it, what are we supposed to do? How should we actually live our lives, plan our careers, or find happiness? Klaas boils it down to a fundamental choice we make all the time. Do we exploit or do we explore? Exploiting is when you double down on what you know works. You're efficient, you're following a plan. Exploring, well, that's about wandering into the unknown, trying something new just to see what happens. And if you look around, our society is obsessed with the exploit mindset. It's all about productivity, 5-year plans, efficiency at hitting your goals. We're told to optimize every part of our lives. Exploring, on the other hand, is often seen as just goofing off or wasting time. But here's the core lesson from Klaas. In a world of flukes, only exploiting is a trap. It makes you rigid. When we intentionally make time to explore, whether that's taking a different route home, picking up a random new hobby, or just talking to a stranger, we open ourselves up to happy accidents. We become more resilient. And maybe most importantly, we get to feel that sense of wonder that comes from living in a world that we can never fully predict or control. So the big takeaway here isn't that planning is bad. It's that only planning is bad. Relentless optimization can actually blind you to better opportunities. Often, the greatest breakthroughs in our own lives and in the world don't come from a perfect plan. They come from having the courage to wander off the path for a bit. And that brings us to the final beautiful paradox of this whole idea. Look, realizing you have less control than you thought can be a little scary, but Klaas wants us to see it as incredibly empowering. Because if the world is so sensitive to tiny little nudges, it means that your smallest actions, that one conversation, that one trip, can ripple out in ways you could never ever imagine. In a world of flukes, nothing you do is insignificant. Everything matters. If you have a book in mind that should be added to our list, comment below. If this blueprint helped you, subscribe, like, and build with us. More blueprints are coming. Stay intentional, stay consistent. We are doing this one book at a time. And remember, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So share this with them and grow together. Real progress becomes stronger when it is shared. Build your life one blueprint at a time. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you do.